Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the DanaBuckler Show. My name is Dana, and I think thrilled isn't the big enough word to use right now, but I am, frankly, just excited and delighted to welcome back to the DanaBuckler Show my friend, John Travolta. John, how are you today?
Hi, Dana. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to just chat with me a little bit. The short film we're going to talk about today is The Shepherd, which is currently streaming on Disney+. And John, before we get started, I watched this the other day. And when I was watching it, it just seemed to me, I kept saying to myself, I know this story. And I couldn't pinpoint it. And then I started thinking about it. And I'm originally from Canada. I lived there till I was 15 years old. And it dawned on me that when I was a kid, they would air this on CBC radio.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, around Christmas time.
They would do a yearly around Christmas time. And I had my family listen to it as well from 1990 on. Or 1991, we would listen to it every year, that same broadcast that they did in Canada. And it was something we all looked forward to, and it was based on a book, obviously, Frederick Forsyth. And I bought the rights to it, about 20 years ago, or maybe 25 years ago. I owned them for 6 or 10 years, the right. And then I got so busy with movies, I thought, well, I'm never going to be able to really do this. So I gave them up. And then some other, Ian Softly and Bill Kenwright bought the rights and decided to do it and include me because they knew I had wanted to be involved in it. And at first, Dana, it was just as a producer. And then they said, well, would you even consider playing the shepherd? I said, well, I might. Let me think about it. Because, I originally wanted to do the young pilot. I thought, well, I'm certainly too old to do that, but I'm not too old for the shepherd. And I think I will say yes to that offer. So I got an executive producer credit as well as being the opportunity to be the shepherd. So I was very, very pleased with the whole outcome. It really is a special thing for me.
And I'm wondering, I obviously I know the clear answer of what drew you to this project. I think I would think would be partly the aviation aspect, but I'd love to know what was it specifically about The Shepherd that, you're like, I need to buy the rights to this. Like, what was it about that particular story that really spoke to you? Well,
there was sort of a coincidence in my life and the book. Two things, and this is before I purchased the book years ago. I owned a Vampire jet, which is actually one of the characters in the movie is the plane that the young man flies. It's a first generation British military jet, and it was used as a trainer, but they were thinking of using it in other warfare as well. But it was at the end of the war that they built this. Anyway, I bought one in 1988 or 9. And I kept it for 3 years, and I flew it all the time because it was it was just such a lovely plane to fly. So that grabbed my attention because the cover of the book has the image of a vampire jet on the cover. Then, unfortunately, about 2 years after I bought the plane, I had a different plane, a corporate jet that I was flying in 1992, and in 1992, and I had a total electrical failure. So I know and knew what it was like to have the panic and the fear of actually thinking you're not going to make it. So anyway, cut to, I don't know, a few months later after the purchase of the plane happened, and I was 3 years into it, and then this incident happened, and then I see this book in a bookstore with a vampire jet. I had no idea that it's about a pilot going home for Christmas, and he loses all his electrical fare in the cockpit. And I said, well, this is ironic. This is, I owned one of these, and then the character loses all his electric, like I did in the Gulfstream plane, and I got to read this. And I fell in love with it because I never anticipated that it would be also so moving and so hopeful and so have a real significance and beyond the holiday spirit of the goodness of man and how helpful he is in needs of despair. And I just loved it. It was just brilliantly executed. So that's why I fell in love with it, because I had real, honest to goodness reality with it. Something I really knew. I knew the airplane itself, and I knew what it was like to lose that magnitude of flight. And you have your engine, it's running fine, but you can get lost in space because there's nothing to guide you. So that's what the character goes through. And then my character, as it's not really a spoiler because it's in the trailer, but he comes along in a different type of World War II machine called Mosquito. It's a twin-engine plane that was used in World War II, and I'm his shepherd, and it's just so beautiful, and I love the music in it. The music is spectacular. It's almost like its own character as well. So you have like four main characters. You have the young pilot, you have me as the shepherd, and you have these two aircraft, and actually then the music is like a fifth character. But the scenery too, the visuals in this little movie are so spectacular, And then when you do Carol of the Bells as that little jet takes off and in the midnight sky with the stars sparkling and the snow-capped mountains of Germany, it's just the mixture of that is just amazing.
It really struck me when I was watching it the first time, and you really just touched on it. It's a visually striking film. Breathtaking is kind of the word that I would use to describe it. I was in awe, and I'm somebody who is a big aviation enthusiast, and so right off the bat, I was sort of enamored with the de Havilland Vampire right away, because it was a plane that I wasn't too familiar with. And it was interesting how this movie sort of created that call to action for me to learn as much as I can about this. And to find out that you actually owned one of these planes, I think is just incredible. And I have to ask you real quick, and I don't want to go too much on a side tangent. The avionics, everything that is in that plane, it's from, like you said, the late 1940s, early 1950s. How drastically different?
The scenario takes place in 1957, which would be over 10 years after they stopped making this type of aircraft. But they were still using it in training in the British Air Force, and so they had bases all over Europe, and they would still use it. It was a great trainer for fighter jets as well. So you were saying, you're asking?
Well, I was just curious, given the all the different planes that you've had the pleasure of piloting, was this your first sort of single seat jet trainer that you had the opportunity to fly?
Well, I'd actually owned a Citation jet, which is also a single pilot jet prior to this. So I wasn't unfamiliar with flying alone in the jet at all. It was just that this had a little more personality and character to it because of its history, and it was so simple. It was so simple. It was just literally a jet engine and about 5 instruments. There's no complexities at all to it. Matter of fact, the little training book on it was about maybe 12 or 15 pages long. That was it. And you had to fly it. You had to train in it on your own because it was only one seat. So when the FAA came out to test you, they basically took your little book. They asked you the speeds of the plane and when the gear comes down, what speed is it when the flaps come in, and what do you do if this happens or that happens? And it takes about 10 minutes to answer those questions. And they go, okay, we'll watch you do 3 takeoffs and landings, and good luck. But you become a test pilot at that point because you've never flown it before. So that's what I did, and that was just a wonderful experience in its own.
Just incredible. So coming back to the project itself, you said that you had the rights for a while, and then it looks like the project's going to be a go, and they ask you to come on board, and like you said, you've got the executive producer role as well. Tell me about the production of the film. Where did you guys where did you film this?
We filmed it in England, and there was one example left of a Vampire jet still flying, which we were very lucky. And then we put pieces of another one together for the shots of the actors, and there was a mosquito plane in a museum that we used, and then there was a flying example of that, but the actual shots were in. We needed other stationary examples, so we had that. And we had two flying examples as well. But it was in the outside of, probably about 2 hours outside of London, maybe 3. And it was in the countryside, an airport just like the one that was in the movie that he lands at. And we shot it, it was about a 3-week or 4-week shoot. And this actor was so brilliant in this role. Radcliffe. He's so subtle. He's so nuanced, because he didn't know how to fly a plane, but you'd never know it.
Yeah.
And his despair was right on the money. I mean, it was so vivid, and real. And he's really the heart of the movie. I come along and match that, but it's not. If he doesn't work in it, the movie doesn't work, So I'm really impressed with him. And the production was all Oscar nominated people or Oscar winners. Alfonso and the guy the cinematographer was the guy who did Gladiator. Alfonso won an Oscar for Roma. He had a high quality group at the helm of this. And Ian Softly, the director, has a lot of great work as well. So, you're really dealing with pedigree to begin with. And I didn't appreciate it as much until I was in the middle of how professional everybody was, and also how willing they were to listen to my advisories on aviation, because I knew more than all of them did as far as details are concerned, and what should be said or not said, or how it should be described, or sometimes how it should be shot based on my knowledge,
So let me just ask you this, because recalling the listening to it on the radio, then this would have been 30 plus years ago for me.
Oh, yes.
I went ahead and got the audio book shortly after watching The Shepherd. And it occurred to me listening to it, and it comes in at about an hour and 10 minutes, the actual novella that Forsythe wrote. But the the actual story is told from a first-person narrative from the character of Freddie. And The Shepherd, the short film, is not told, well, it's essentially his story, but something you said really resonated with me, and that is, when you read the short story, it's from the first person narrative, so you understand what Freddie is thinking and what what emotions he's going through, and sort of the way that he translates that in the way that Ben Radcliffe translates that in this is brilliant. How involved were you with, when you saw the actual screenplay? Was there any notes that you gave? Was there any changes that you said?
Oh, I had a lot of them.
Yeah.
I had a lot of them, because I said, because it couldn't be exactly like the book, and they had to change the narrative to some degree. We were demonstrating and articulating it differently. And I said, you can't be erroneous here. Now that it's coming to an articulation, this is how we would do it. If you were really in the plane and you really were leading someone down, or if the person were noticing these failures one after another, this is what he'd have left. This is what he wouldn't have left. And I said, for instance, I said, you have a mercury kind of, a water compass that would be, semi-accurate, but we have to make sure that that's failing too, that there's something erroneous with it. So he has no sense of direction now, other than celestial, which he's not going to do because he doesn't have the equipment in the plane to do that. So I said, we have to have no recognition of navigational aid at all. Now we're in trouble, you see. So, because I said, if you keep some of these instruments alive, then, he's not going to have the drama that he needs. So it's tiny things, but even the instructions on when the gear goes down, the speeds he's to hold, the speeds he's to descend feet per minute, all was what I wrote, as though I said, look, just let me bring him down as if I were going to bring someone down, and, stay in my wingtip and follow my wingtip down. But this is what speeds I'm going to go. And this is when you should slow down to this speed, and this is how far you have to run to the end of the runway, and blah blah blah, and so on and so forth. But all of that was not accurate, so he allowed me to rewrite my section and also what the pilot was observing. Radcliffe was observing at the time of his failures, so he literally was lost in space. That was really good, and that was part of our agreement, was that he would allow me to help. And then I had some music cues ideas. My favorite is, I said, look, I'm only going to request one thing, and that is when that jet takes off and the landing gear comes up and the landing lights of the runway disappear and the snow-capped mountains and the sparkling stars are there, I want the cue of Carol of the Bells to go ring, ding, ding, ding. Every turn the plane makes, I want it like an orchestrational instructor, just move it to the rhythm of the music. And I said, it will be spectacular with those visuals. And I was absolutely correct. I knew that it would be effective, and it was. And I said, thank you so much for, because when I was going to own the project, that's how I visualized that whole section. I said, if I ever make this into a movie, I'm going to put this as my first musical cue. And then the other thing I asked them to do is to please establish during the flight his fantasy of what it's like with the family waiting at home, the mother, the girlfriend, the Christmassy atmosphere in the house in England, because it wasn't in there at first. It was just the trouble, just the first phone call at the base, and then you didn't hear about them or see them. And I said, you've got to touch base with what he's, what he thinks they're doing, waiting for him. While he's waiting to die, they're waiting for him to have this holiday, and I said, I want to see them, again, so we know what we're losing. We know how awful he must feel. And, boy, Ben just killed that. He just did a beautiful job. But again, having the cut tos of the family, it was really important, and I was very, very happy about that. Very proud of this movie. It's like one of my, because I've only had a few passion projects in my life, and this being one of the top ones. And the next one will be my little book I wrote, Propeller Runway Night Coach. I want to make that into a movie, a short, and it will hopefully maybe use some of the same team and have the same effect, but in a different scenario.
So one of the, and I remember you mentioning that other project that you're hoping to get made. Really excited about that. That was one of the things that really stuck with me the last time we talked. One of the moments that got me in The Shepherd, in both the actual short story and the short film, is there's that moment where Freddie says he's not scared to die. He's just sad about what he's going to miss. And God, does that, it just got me. It's so effective, so effective.
Isn't it?
It really is. Like, I just really want everyone that's listening to us right now to obviously finish this episode, but then watch this. And it's available on Disney Plus, and it's incredible. It's special. And I really feel like, much like in Canada around Christmas time every year, you would be able to hear this on the radio. I'm hoping that this becomes a annual tradition for people to watch this.
Dana, I'm certain of it. Once in a while, you have a certainty about something. And it doesn't happen very often in this business. I had a certainty about Grease. I was never worried about it being a giant hit because I'd lived with it for a year on the National Road Company on Broadway, and I just knew it. I knew I'd come. This is one of those films where I have no doubt about it. It so resonates right to the heart and soul of people that it will be a Christmas classic. I remember my friend Anson, who produces with me now and writes as well, but I was worried about Michael, the movie Michael, and he wouldn't hear it. He said, "I'm sorry, I'm just not worried about it. It's going to be a big hit." And I said, "I don't know. I doubted it, and blah, blah, blah." He said, "Nope, sorry, I'm not going to indulge you. I'm just not going to waste the time." And that's how I feel about the Shepherd. I just have this feeling, it's already getting tremendous response, but I'm just bullish about how it's going to resonate forever. Just like the yearly, radio show did in Canada that I would share with everybody, because you get a copy of it too. And I would share with everyone. We'd play it at home, as I said, every Christmas, sometimes Christmas Eve, sometimes the week after. And everybody responded to just listening to it. Now you get the visual with it. Oh my goodness. I mean, honestly, it's just joyous. I agree with you.
Yeah. And I'll say this, I reached out to, because I watched this 2 days ago, and I reached out to a lot of my fellow podcasting colleagues and sort of my cinema friends. And I said, have you watched The Shepherd yet? You need to watch it. And the response I got back from almost everybody was immediate. And it was, thank you. Thank you for putting this on my radar. I can't wait to share this with everyone else. And that's the magic of what this project is. I mean, it's clearly something that's been part of my life for 35 plus years. And it just, I just want to take you back to that moment a couple days ago when I'm watching this. I'm going, I'm loving this. This is so familiar to me. And it just all came full circle. And here I am talking to you, and you're in it. And it's just an incredible sort of serendipitous moment for me. And I just think it's magical. That's the best way to describe The Shepherd. It's just magical. So.
It really is. And it's so subtle in its sentiment. It doesn't push buttons. It just gently invites you to feel it, to feel the Christmas spirit, to feel man's love for each other and hopefulness and all that stuff. It's just like any good piece of art, invites you in. It doesn't push you away, and it lures you in, and it doesn't manipulate. It just is what it is. Here's an example. I had a friend tonight said someone was just bragging on your new film, and he said the accolades are huge. It sounds right up my alley. And then I get an email from Barbara Streisand saying, what did she say here? I have her email here, and then her husband texted me separately telling me how much he loved. He's a pilot as well, but she said how much she loved The Shepherd and went on about it. So, I'm not even soliciting these things, and it's coming in because it has its own power, It's so lovely to be part of something like this, Was it understood when this project was greenlit that it was going to go through Disney? Was Disney always going to be the sort of the studio behind? What happened was Bill Kenwright financed this and Ian Softly, with the cinematographer from Gladiator, agreed to do it. So we were already, and then they got me involved. And then Alfonso from Disney Plus got wind. He said, "That's my favorite book." He said, "I want to be part of this. I want to be part of this. I'll even help with financing if you need it. But, I wanted a Disney Plus because he has this niche of short films each year that he produces, and he does very well with them. And he said, but I have to be part of this." So he was kind of insisting and so Disney Plus was kind of a beautiful it wasn't after production. It was after it was all set up. Then they got involved, and then we all did it together. Disney Plus was definitely involved when I was shooting it. So it was before production started that Disney was definitely involved, but it was because it was already something that had come to fruition, and they wanted to be part of it. And before we even started, so we had the luxury of having the machine of Disney Plus help us sort out all the production details, which is very helpful. Meaning, you need that when you want to do a high-end, make a short look like it's a long movie, which is what it does. 38 minutes, but it feels like it's a 2-hour movie because it's so beautiful. It doesn't rush itself as a short. It just tells its story and rolls out effortlessly. But all that is helped by having a machine like a Disney Plus that can sort out it to make all your, so the artists really just deliver what they need to deliver. So, the post-production stuff was very important, the visuals, the music, and they had the money now to get it right, and so all that was very important. So, yeah, that's how Disney got involved.
And it's interesting because they have a lot of content on Disney Plus, and when I fired up Disney Plus, right there, opening page, there it was. Like they're definitely throwing their full support behind this project, and I think that's just awesome. I mean, just awesome. And they have hundreds of millions of subscribers. Like everybody's getting an opportunity to see this, and they should, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, that's the advantage of having a big epic, company behind your work. You get it seen, and I have a feeling. Just knock on wood, and it wouldn't even matter if it didn't happen. But I have a feeling it has a very serious chance to be nominated in the short film category, because you have a lot of people that are already aware of all the artists involved in this. You see, so they're kind of waiting for this. It's got a little bit of a step up on others, because it's not just because it's good, but because of the people involved.
What has to happen for it to qualify? Does it have to screen? Now, I know that feature films have to have a limited theatrical run to qualify, but in the...
Yes, and this did a month, and I think it did a month in L.A.
Okay.
It's got there's some criteria, and I think it's a month in an L.A. theater where Academy members have access, and maybe in New York or London, but it's got to have some theatrical presence as a short to qualify. And when you're involved with a big company, they make sure that they qualify. And then you start, like I flew to England about a month ago not a month ago. It's just 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I got back from England to sit with the British Academy and the U.S. Academy. They had 2 screenings, and there was critics and there was Academy members to show the feature. And I'll do the same in January in L.A. So this is par for the course, if you will. And so it went super well, as I knew it would. And I'll repeat that in January. So all the things we're supposed to do to be nominated are being done. And therefore, But again, it's one of those things, you just love so much that an award would be lovely, but it's if it doesn't, it's not going to change how people feel about it or how impactful it is. It will just verify, that there's some agreement, with that group. But I'm really thrilled that you feel. I did not know until you told me that you were familiar with the piece. I was thinking, what is he going to tell me? Why is he saying this? I thought, is it because I told him a story about my electrical failure, or that I owned this plane years ago? Or why does he think this story is familiar? And when he said Canada Yearly, the radio show, and that was my familiarity with it, but I had read the book first. And then when I heard there was an audio of it is when I tuned into that, and you could buy it. You could still buy it as an audio of the book. Oh, by the way, Frederick Forsyth came to the screening, and I love him. He's a great writer. He's done terrific work, Decipheile, and you name it. I mean, he's got 12 or 13 excellent books he's written. But he must be 85 or 6 or something. And he's fine. He's in good health. And I said, Freddie, you were going to love this movie. He said, we did it. We did your book. We played homage to your book. We definitely. I said, you're going to be so happy. He said, well, I'm really looking forward to it. So we see it, and we get up, the director and I get in front of the audience, and there's a commentator, who's the #1 critic in Britain, in England. And I say, before anybody talks, I said, Freddie, well, and he looked at me, and I swear to you, his smile looked like he was 30 years old. He just lit up like a Christmas tree. And he said to me, fantastic. And my heart stopped. I was so thrilled with his response, because I always like pleasing the writer of a book. Same thing with Elmore Leonard when I did Get Shorty and Be Cool. He was just so happy with the movies that it depicted his book so well. This is what happened with Freddie Forsyth and The Shepherd. He just was thrilled with the outcome. And that look he gave me, and his eyes sparkling, and it's fantastic. I mean, I could cry thinking about his reaction, just great.
I mean, that just made me get very, very, almost teary-eyed there when you said, his smile made him look like he was 30 years old, because, Frederick Forsyth, I'm very familiar with him as a writer. And that's an incredibly heartwarming little story you just told right there about his reaction to seeing The Shepherd. Absolutely heartwarming. I will say this, John, if there's one thing I'm slightly jealous of right now is, like, I'm a huge cinephile, big movie guy. Been doing a podcast about movies in the film industry for 10 years. I've grown up on it. I love going to the movies, and I have, I have a 70-inch, nice 4K flat screen. I want to watch, when I'm watching movies at home, I want to have the best experience possible. But my dream would be to see The Shepherd on the biggest screen possible, because there are some sweeping shots in this. So the fact that you've done screenings of this, that was going to be my next question, and I'm jealous you got to see this on the big screen.
Yes, and does it belong on the big screen or what? I mean, this movie, it works no matter how you watch it, but on the big screen, it is breathtaking. The cinematography is, but look at Gladiator. I mean, this is heavy. These are heavyweights that were involved with this short. This is as good as you get, and the visuals on this is just amazing, and I'm a big visual music person when it comes to movies. I believe they can give anywhere from 50% to 75% of the quality of the communication. And you can prove my point by just eliminating shots from movies and music from movies and go, wow, I don't even think I'd think that movie was very good without that music or that visual or that angle or that, lighting. It's so important And, it just is. When you think of like A Man and a Woman, or you think of Breakfast at Tiffany's, without the music, without the way it was shot, you don't have a movie, So I think in this little film, the visuals and the music were quintessential part of it, And this boy, oh my God, Ben Radcliffe, I just can't tell you how impressed I am with his subtlety in this. He didn't have a false note. I mean, there was not a false note. And I remember when I was when doing my side, we shot my side first. And I remember I was being, kind of encouraged to maybe do a little more. And I said, no, I'm going to do this exactly how I would do it. I want to give this pilot that I'm guiding down confidence. And I do that with being certain and confident myself and articulate exactly what I want him to do. And then he mirrored that when even that first moment when he looks over and he sees, oh my God, someone's going to save me. And I look at him and I nod and he nods back. We had the same nod. It was perfect. It was just what you would want, what you would believe, what you would fantasize is the truth of the moment, and nothing else. It was just lovely. So it's it's great.
Talk to me just for a moment, as such an accomplished pilot that you are. What do you think about when you think about the actual shepherds, these pilots that risked everything to help other pilots find the runway, get down safe? I mean, as a pilot, what does that mean to you?
Well, the thing is that, Robert Altman, who was in World War II, the famous director, the brilliant director, he directed a movie about this to some degree. And he said, I was there. The saddest thing about the pilots in World War II is that they were all only given 5 hours of training, and then they were forced to fly. He said the reason there were so many crashes is they didn't know what they were doing. They were just had enough time to learn how to take off and land, and then they were sent up on these missions. And so there was no emergency trainings. He said, I watched it with my own eyes. He said, that's half the fatalities were inexperience because they did not have the time to train them at a level that was needed. So, the shepherds were definitely mandatory because you sent up ill-fated pilots to begin with, No, that's not the case in the Shepherd because he genuinely lost his electric and lost all his total instrument failure. That's different. But your question was about what do I think about any of these pilots that helped others come down? I mean, it was not only an incredible gesture, but it was mandatory. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. The necessity level was high for that group. Sure.
The Shepherd is currently on Disney Plus. It's available worldwide right now. In closing, is there anything else that you'd like to let the listeners know about just how special this project is to you?
When you see it, you'll know why it would be special to someone like myself, but it will be special to the viewer as well, I think. And it's something that you'll want to watch more than once. And it's with the speed of particle of today's lifestyle, it's exactly the right amount of time too. In a busy schedule, a Christmas holiday, that's about how much time you have to give to some piece of entertainment. So you're gonna love it. It's one of those things where I don't have to sell it. It's one of these things that just when you see it, it sells itself beautifully. There's no pitch to do on it. It's just something that let it entertain you visually and let it strike you musically and let it strike you in its storytelling and just let it you'll feel like you're watching a full-length movie. That's the interesting thing. It doesn't ever look like it's a short.
Yeah, and there is not a wasted moment in this film. There's not a moment where there's so many movies now where you can go, for the sake of time, you could cut this down a little bit, or you could do this. I could see how you could trim a little of this out of there. Watching this, it's so tight, and I say that as a compliment. It's so perfectly paced, and it's
Fiction.
It's one of these things. When it was over, I was like, I just want a little more. I just want to see just a little bit more of this.
You know what I didn't tell you, which is very interesting. Part of this, it was, I objected to it, but they wanted to make it a full-length movie, and I said, no, you can't. It's not going to be a full-length movie. But they wrote a script anyway, and I read it, and it just didn't work for me as a full-length movie, and nor did it for Alfonso, the Disney Plus person. So by the time we all agreed to do it, it was down to the length that it should have been. But there was a moment where there was some enthusiasm about making it a 2-hour movie, and or a full-length movie, I should say. And I think everybody agrees that it was better with what we ended up doing. But it is efficiently edited and efficiently told, but in all the right ways,
Absolutely. So, John, thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to talk to me. And I'm just thrilled to be able to talk to you about The Shepherd. It was such an awesome experience. I'd like to say this. Of course, it'll become a Christmas tradition, but I'm going to watch this a few times every year because I'm a big aviation guy. I'm a big fan of yours, as you know. It's a magical story. So thank you for being on the show.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure. It's my biggest pleasure is to be on your show. And you always take such good care of me, but at the same time, you are so insightful about everything that you discuss. It's cut above. So I appreciate your intelligence on all this stuff.
I really appreciate that, John. Thank you so much. And we will definitely talk soon. And for everybody listening, my name is DanaBuckler. My guest today was the one and only John Travolta. The Shepherd is currently streaming now on Disney Plus. Thank you so much, and we will talk soon.